It's really happening. People kept saying 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks is going to happen. It's like the joke now because it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And now everybody likes to use the 2 weeks because now 2 weeks is 2 months, 2 years, 2 decades. Russia made their move and they've been penetrating deep within Ukraine. There's some reports that they're actually outside of Kiev. And it looks like they made their move around the Dnieper River. And there's also reports that they have went into the forbidden zone around Chernobyl, the exclusion zone. And I was thinking about this militarily, that was actually very important for them to capture because the Russians knew that they couldn't let that place become more of an issue than it already is. And it's a huge issue for Russia because they've had to abandon large amounts of land, and it's just really crazy to have any nuclear reactors around your city because they're targets. It's the first target. And now you have this government that's being capitulated. And really, when you think about it, what's more important for a government to stay in power or by sabotaging Chernobyl that could make the world much more worse for everyone? And that's why I think that Russia really thought, if we're going to go in there, we're going to have to make sure that Chernobyl is not sabotaged. And that's for the people of Ukraine. You don't want that to happen. Probably some bad actors that were thinking about it, going in there, creating such a catastrophic event where, yeah, you might stop the Russians to some degree by sabotaging Chernobyl. But then again, you're completely screwed as a country. You'll never be able to do anything again. You're going to have to abandon that country. As it is, you probably don't want to be living in Ukraine or anywhere near Ukraine. Belarusia, a lot of those places are contaminated with the radiation. Even to this day, as far away as Scotland, that they're finding some of their soil is still contaminated. And they recommend for a lot of people not to even grow in Scotland. And you can imagine some of the Nordic countries like Norway, Sweden. Those areas have been contaminated. Belarusians. There's a lot of damage still happening from Chernobyl. And it's just a really bad idea to have any of these nuclear reactors in your country because they become instant targets in a war. Knowing that Moscow is not too far from Chernobyl, they had to take it. They had to. I hate war. I don't like it. But there's always events that lead up to creating war. And it's really easy to say Putin's a bad guy here, but they do feel threatened. There is some fear there when you have NATO creeping up on their border. Looking at it from the Russian perspective, they feel like this is kind of their historical roots. And they knowing that government has just been overthrown less than 7 years ago, they don't feel like we're playing fairly up to the agreements that were laid out before not to encroach on their land. I'm pretty sure that if Ukraine wouldn't have cozied up to the West, they could have had an open free trade agreements and kept their trade with Russia and, do their pipeline deals, just not be so greedy. And they let the wrong people in control of Ukraine. They should have just tried to stop acting like everybody's going to come in there and fight for them. Now, let's see. There's some other countries, obviously, they're worried. They think, well, after Ukraine, who's going to be next? They've been thinking that the Russians might move in on Finland. Finland was just begging to get into NATO right now. I think that's actually the wrong course of action. because now Russia's going to think, well, they're going to try to be in NATO. They're on our border. Maybe we should attack before they even get included. So this is just making them a target. They should have just kept their mouth shut, but I guess some of the Finnish politicians were pretty dumb in those regards. Yeah, they should have just stayed quiet, try to maintain good relations. I don't think they'd be attacked, because that's kind of like what happened in Georgia. Georgia rattling the sabers of war and start acting like they're going to be a threat. And once you start being threatening to your neighbor, bigger neighbor, well, the bigger dog is going to come in there and is going to whoop some butt. So that's what we're seeing here, the dynamics. Now, I do think that once if Putin does decide to attack a NATO country, depending, I mean, there are some NATO countries maybe that still NATO won't react, but I'm pretty sure that if they do attack a NATO country, that's when you'd see a big pushback, fight back, and that's in nobody's interest, because that's when the missiles might start flying. There's also been reports, no, I can't confirm none of this, but I'm just going off about what I've heard, that they have found some new technology that's being used. They've seen triangular objects in the sky around Chernobyl. So some people think this is reverse engineered UFO technology. And some people speculate that these are aliens that are protecting Chernobyl, which I don't really think so. I think it's more just the deep pockets, the deep state. This is technology that is just being first used, and they kind of look like UFOs. So this could be Russian tech, it could be even NATO's. Some of the technology looks really interesting. I have a couple videos I've seen of it, but I can't confirm that it has been over Chernobyl. That's just all what I've heard.
You're welcome to take this trip with me. Let's wake up a few people. Peace.
Providing you with the knowledge to land yourself in an extremely uncomfortable conversation at a party with a very opinionated acquaintance.